Welcome to today's challenge on query folding. For the past few days have been super interesting. So on today's challenge, we have to select some key columns from the employee table, and the conditions that need to be met are listed out here. So we have to make sure that a salesperson is true, the valid to year is not 999, and the total days between this period is greater than 365 days. Then there's a second condition, which is to check if a salesperson is false and the valid to year is 999. Let's head over to my Power BI and see how this works. So this is Power BI. Let's go to transform data and let's pull in the data. So when I was trying out this challenge, I ran into some issues, right? Some of the functions I was expecting to work didn't work. So I had to try uh, a number of functions before I actually got it to work. So I'm going to show you the things that didn't work so that you don't try it. And I'm also going to show you what actually worked. So the first step after importing your database, as always, is to choose the columns that are relevant to the question you're answering. So we have employee key, employee, a salesperson, valid form, and valid to. So after selecting the columns that we want, some basic things you should know is you can actually start applying our filters, but I would like you to walk through how I solved this. So what I did here, first of all, is to add a year column. This gives us the year of the year. So here we can use this to apply the filter for where the year is equal to 999 or where the year is not equal to 999. That's super easy. So, and the next thing is to count the number of days between these two periods. Counting the number of days between these two periods, I thought it was going to be easy, but it wasn't. So let me show you how everything went down. So the first thought that came to my mind was to subtract the number of days between these two periods. Great, we have the result, but is query folding still happening? No, query folding wasn't happening again. So I was bothered. Then I remembered there was a function, I think, number from. So I thought I should try it out. So what I did was to go to add column, add custom column, and I subtracted these two dates from each other and the number from. And this is what I got. I got this and I was really excited that I was really close to getting the result. But then I checked and query folding wasn't happening. So that means I'm down to looking for another alternative. So up next, I said, okay, let me take out this column, add this column all over again. I added a custom column, and this time around, I did valid to minus valid from, click on OK. I have this. The result you see here is a duration, right? We don't want the result as a duration. So we want this in days. Really, we want this in days. I wanted to like extract the values here before the dot. It wasn't working actually, and even if it worked, it won't be the best because 23.5, 23, this is like 24, 23 hours, 59. This is almost like a whole day. This is a whole day. So if I should extract all the values before the dots, like 13, all the values before the dot here, this won't be complete. But the way I would have done this is to go to transform, click on extract, and extract text before dot, and click on this. And you see it wasn't working fine. And another thing again was that query folding was failing already. So I took out that step and query folding was still working fine. So I'm down to my final option. So while I was working on this, I remember the function that I saw once, I think either in the documentation, I was going through the documentation, I saw this function once and I thought I should try it out. So if you notice, the first function we used was duration dot days. You see the duration dot days. That's the first function we use. When we did that subtract days, this is the function that was used. So this is it. It gives you the days, but it wasn't working fine. So I had to go back and change this to duration dot total days. This is the function that worked for me. I did duration dot total days and clicked on this, checked query folding, and query folding was working fine. This made me super excited. Oh, so finally this is working. So from here now, I'll just add some steps and some tricks that will help me keep this query very simple. So before I go now, I think the answer I would like to get is why duration.days isn't working and duration.total days isn't working. And when I think about it though, I think it's because duration.total days accounts for time. I think duration.days doesn't account for time. I may be wrong though, but that's just my intuition based on how this value was calculated. Because duration.days doesn't see this 23 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds as a day. So, but dot total days does. So if I were to use duration dot days here, the value here will be 90, not 91. I think maybe that's just the trick. So now that we know that query folding is working fine, we also need to take this a step further. We need to round up these values, right? We want this to either round up or round. Let me see. Okay, we need to round these values. We're not rounding up anything. We need to round these values. So what I did here was to come back here. I'm not rounding up and I'm not rounding down. Just rounded the values. So that should be number, round. Yep, super simple. You don't need to specify anything and just click on OK. And now we've rounded all the values here. So we have the number of days here. We can now test for where the number of days is greater than 365 days. You can do something like that here, greater than 365. So when you do that, the result you're going to get is going to be true or false, true or false, true or false, true or false. So this is great and this is awesome. So with that out of the way, it means that we can start applying the filters that we need to apply. So for the first question, we are asked to, let me just show you. The salesperson should be true. The valid to year should not be 999, and the total days between the two periods should be greater than 365 days. So let's go back here. So I can start applying my filters, but I'm not applying the filters here. I'll just go a step back and I'll show you why I'm doing that, because I'm mostly going to take out some of these steps. And by the way, you should also look at this. Look at the way, where are you? Your query. Look at the length of the query. See that the query is kind of long. As we keep applying steps, you see that the length of the query will keep increasing. So our goal is to, as much as we're doing query folding, to reduce the size of the query, right? We want the query to be as small as possible. So what I'm going to do here is to select where a salesperson is true. So that's one condition. And I'm also going to select for where the year is not 999. So when we come here, you also see that the length of the query has increased. I want you to keep this in mind and watch as I'm going to make effort to reduce the size of the query. So what I want to do now, the next query step to apply is to apply for where apply a filter where the year is greater than 365 days, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to copy this, right? I'll copy this and go to the advanced editor. So I'll right click, go to advanced editor. So all the steps that have been applied, you can find them here, right? So what I will do next is I see is salesperson equal true and year equal this. I'm just going to say and. Remember I copied some formula from the other steps. I'll just paste it here. And now we have where the total number of days within this period is greater than 365 days. I apply that and you see the data size has reduced. So that worked fine. That means I can now delete this custom step. I don't need it. right? But that's not all. There's something else we can also do. For example, if I should expand this a bit, we have, you see where we have year here, we are referencing this column. So I added this as a custom column. So we may not even need to add it as a column again. Let me show you how to do that. If I should go back to this step, you see that I have date.year here, right? I can just copy this date.year and go back to the previous step and replace this with the formula I just copied. It's still going to work fine. That means I don't need this column anymore. I'll delete it. And everything is still working perfectly. Now let's look at what the query looks like. You see, we have fewer lines of SQL query here. Because the initial step I took was adding a lot of steps. The query was quite long, but this query is simpler and it's easier to work with, right? And I think this is good to look at. It's not scary. And I think the more complex the more steps you add to your query, the more steps you add here in Power Query, the more complex you're going to make the query that will be sent to the database. So this is awesome. We solved one of the questions that we need to solve. There's still one more left though. The last one, which is salesperson is false and the valid to year is 999. So let me show you how to go about this. What I'll be doing here, I won't be applying any other steps. I'll just go back to the advanced editor and modify the steps we've already applied. So we know that from here to this point is it's a single condition. So I'm just going to wrap everything up in a bracket and click on OR. So this is going to test for this first condition, and now we want to test for another condition. So all I need to do is copy this and paste it here. But we are changing this to false. So this is case sensitive, so it has to be small letter, right? And remember the condition says that the date, the year should be equal to 999. So I'm pasting this here and checking for where the year is equal to 999. And maybe just for fun, I can just wrap this new condition up in a single bracket. And I feel like, yeah, and click on done. And you see that now we have all the queries and we have all the result that we were expecting. So where this is false, you see that the year is 999. Where it is not false, you also see the dates, and we've already made sure that the number of days is greater than 365 days. And this is awesome, right? And this has not increased the length of the query as well. You see that the length of the query is still the same because we went to the advanced editor and modified. This way you don't have to apply too many steps. So all we just did here was go to the source, connect to the table we want to use, remove the columns that we don't need. This is more like writing a select statement and apply filters. I'll say I'm excited that I got this to work, and I know you've also learned like one or two things from here. So please don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy this video. Don't forget to like the video as well. So the challenge for day 5 is done, and challenge for day 6 is tomorrow, and I'm looking forward to it. So thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching this video. See you tomorrow.